There we are. We're good here. And then we've got, yep. All right. All right. Can you all see my screen?
Yeah, I see it.
Excellent. Well, welcome to the first week of ITM 2020. I'm Brother Stevic. I will be your guide through this. A little bit about me to start. I think I gave you the introduction, but if no one read it and you're here, I wasn't always a computer guy. I started life as a drama teacher, which is evident in my demeanor and how I do things and present things. So, I live in Florida and it's chilly for Florida today. It is like 50 degrees out, so I got a little jacket on here because I've been acclimatized to Florida temperatures, and it is freezing outside for us here. I'm sure if y'all up north, you're like laughing at me, but that's okay. I'm good with that. Um, I've been a DBA for about 25 years now, 26 years. I've worked in Microsoft SQL Server, Oracle, Postgres, MySQL, MongoDB, Cassandra. I've never touched an AS400, but I've heard about them. Um, I'm currently the manager of a database team at a company called Leidos when I'm not doing uh, database teaching here. So, all right. So tonight, what we're going to do is we're just going to go over how the class works, what we do, what my expectations are, kind of set the framework for this semester. Maybe if we have some time, give you guys a background into some database stuff. But this is just a time to ask questions about how the class works, what you need from me, what I expect of you, and just kind of get everything moving in the right direction. All right. So when you look at your module here, you're going to see a couple things. So every week, it's pretty much the same thing. So the first thing you have a prep and reading course to this. Okay. Um, it'll give you learning objectives, your reading assignments, and a bunch of code and just other information. So you'll notice that every week there is a reading assignment from the book. Um, the book is a great book. Don't get me wrong. It is a fantastic book, has a lot of good information in it, but it is not a great book to read. It is not a page turner. It is not something you're like, wow, can't stop. This is great. I gotta see what the next chapter is. Um, I strongly recommend using the book as a resource, like like to look things up and find the answers rather than try to go from page one to page whatever. Um, with every reading assignment, if you scroll down, there are slides that go with it. And the slides are great because the slides will outline what's in those chapters that you need to know. So I would say go through the slides, understand what the slides say, and and then if you need to, go into the book and find information. Also, on your reading and prep, there'll be a bunch of different links here to for you to go and look at things and different places to get different kinds of code and stuff like that. All those things can be on your quizzes. There's a weekly quiz. So make sure you at least give a good look through those links. You might want to bookmark some of them for later use. They're great resources. I'll be giving you some of my own to use, but make sure that you go through these links and talk and be familiarized with them. Familiarize with them. Were you guys able to get the book, or do you have any problems?
I,
Um, no.
I don't know if I got it yet.
Hey, Luis.
I couldn't see it the last time I checked, which was Monday or yesterday.
Huh?
It wasn't available, but I think it said that it would be automatically available
It should be
on
available.
our resource.
Yeah, did you follow the link in the announcement?
Hmm.
Okay, and you follow the instructions there to don't do what it says, do the other thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it didn't allow me to get it, so maybe it will today. I'll check.
okay. If you don't, call the bookstore and see what's going on with that because that link is from them. But there shouldn't be a problem getting that book. I've never heard of it not being available, so that's weird.
It looks like they're available now.
Oh, good. Okay, sweet.
Brother Stevik, I got a question.
Sure.
So I set my entire schedule thinking that the semester starts tomorrow, and I just read your message telling me that online class starts on Monday, just making sure that if I start tomorrow, there isn't anything that I should have already turned in,
No,
right?
you're fine. Week
Okay,
stuff is super simple. It's just it's a quick quiz. It's the icebreaker thing. Yeah, you're fine. I don't
okay,
know why they do that. It's very strange that the online classes start on Monday and the in-person classes start on Wednesday. Um, maybe it's because online they want the solid 14 weeks. I don't know. But yeah, you're fine. Don't worry about it.
okay, perfect. Well, thank you, Brother Stevik.
Oh, you're welcome. Not a problem. Okay, so and then you'll have a little quiz on the reading that you do. Hi, Melanie. Okay, so that's pretty much the reading and prep. It's just a quick quiz to say that you read. I think the quiz is. I haven't looked at these quizzes in a while because I didn't make the course. I just teach it. I think it's like, did you read? Yes or no. So, all right. Every week you'll have exercises. The exercises. I'm just going to tell you right now. The answer to the exercises the first couple weeks are on the back of the book. It's just how they did it. I'm not, uh, and it's totally fine. It's like I don't know if you remember back when you were in high school and math, you did the math class and the answers to the odd problems were in the back of the book, or the even problems were in the back of the book. Same kind of situation here. My thought is, a lot of well, almost all of this class is going to be writing code. Um, and have any of you guys taken any of the like the prequel classes, like IT? I think it's 110 or something.
I think it was 111. I think we had to take it to even be able to be in this class.
Some people don't. They skip it because of life experience. They'll come in. They've already been in DBA for a while. So if you've taken that class recently, you're going to find a lot of the code be the same for the first couple weeks. So you're going to be in a good position for the code. Been around week 6 is when we start adding new stuff. Um, so if you do the quizzes, when you do the exercises, if there's something if you can't figure out, feel free to go into the back of the book and see the code. Reverse engineering is a completely viable way of understanding code. So if that's what you need to do, that is fine. That's why the answers are back there. Um, as far as code is concerned, so these weekly meetings, the format generally is I will go over the code for that week. I do not limit myself to what the book says. I will introduce code concepts that aren't in the book, that just make logical sense to what we're talking about at the time. And also, I don't go over the code in pace with the book. I actually, by week 7, um, the week 7 meeting that we have, will be the last week that I teach any new code because at that point in time, I will have covered everything. And there's a reason why that's the case. And I'll get to that in a minute. So, yeah, so the exercise is just code. It's writing code. It's understanding code. So that's that. The quizzes are just they're 5 or so questions about the reading, not only the reading from the textbook, but the reading from the links and everything. Please note that the quiz is open book. You may use your notes, you may use the book, you may use whatever you want to use for the quiz. Um, that is a change from a couple of years back where they wanted you to do it on your own, but now it's just everything is open book. Um, the culmination of the quizzes in 13 is a final exam. The final exam is the same test bank of questions that you had for the quizzes. So a lot of the questions will be the same. The final exam is open book, open notes, open internet, open friends, whatever you want to do. So the only difference between the quizzes and the final exam is that you only get one shot at the final exam, and the quizzes you get two shots at. So, and really, in all honesty, since you're doing open book, you probably shouldn't need a second shot, but sometimes there's as you go through it, we've been struggling trying to fix the questions in the quizzes for a while now. There are some that come up that are wrong. If you run into a quiz question that is a problem, if you think it's wrong or you're struggling with it, please let me know. Either text me or email me, and I will take a look at it. And I will either, odds are, I'll just give you credit for it, and then I'll fix the question again because there are some questions on these quizzes that I fixed. I fix every semester, and they always seem to come back. I'm not sure why. Okay. Every week, you are also expected to write a paper. The paper is if you look here, there's a prompt that basically says, "Hey, you just started working for a company, and you were assigned to do this, and what did you learn from that?" This week and week one is which is better, using the IDE or the CLI. Um, it's funny they ask you for their opinion, and then it says, "Explain why the CLI is better than the IDE." I don't happen to think it is. I've been doing this for a while. The IDE is far more intuitive and flows better when you're trying to work quickly. Um, the CLI is great if you just want to show. I always refer to it as just showing how cool you are or how hard your job is. I remember when I started being a DBA, I refused to use the GUI in the ID, and I just used the CLI. And I would pull up the command prompt and I would do all my coding like that, and it looked cool, but then I realized I was spending a lot of time trying to remember how a code was when I just if I went to this IDE, it would just be there for me. So there's that. The thing about the papers is that uh, there is at the end of the class there's an option. You can either take the final exam or do a final project. It's an either or thing. You don't have to do both. The final exam is the final exam. It's questions from the quizzes, blah, blah, blah. The final project is very, very cool. It's something we added about 4 or 5 years ago because what was happening was we have this is a database administration and design class, right? But there was no design element to it. We weren't teaching you how to build anything or how to grow anything or create anything. All we were doing is like, yes, learn stuff, learn this, learn that, right? So what we added was this final project element. And the final project element is you guys are asked to figure out an application that you would like to build or you think should exist in the world and create the backend database to it. Um, and then through that process, you're going to build the database, you're going to populate the database, you're going to write all the code for it, write the code to pull the data out of it using case studies or use cases, and then present that. It is a deep dive into design. I have never had anyone A, fail the project, or B, say it was a bad idea. Some project that some people in the past have done is they've done a database to track their food storage. They've done databases to track space flights. They've done databases to track school schedules. Two students in the last 5 years have actually developed the front end application to go with it. And I don't know if they've ever marketed it, but they were building applications for family businesses, and it came out wonderful. It is a great experience. I strongly recommend everyone who wants to do it. Um, from week 7 on, my goal, my sole purpose is to help people through those projects. As of week 7, once all the code is done talking about, the weekly meetings are talking about projects. Not next week, but the week after, I think. I think that's on the schedule for me is the second half of the Tuesday night call will be me designing a database with you guys, taking you through how to design a database, we'll pick a topic, and we'll start at the beginning and just design it out through. Um, Week 3 is when we actually talk about the requirements of the project because it takes about 10 weeks to do if you do it. If you give it it's everything it needs. So we'll get into the specifics of what's required for the project. Then it does not match what's in the syllabus. So don't start working on the syllabus. There's some changes. I don't have access to make those changes, but I don't ask for the same things because I have a different. They give us some latitude on how to do the final project. So, but the thing is, if you choose to do the final project starting in week 3, the final paper changes. So instead of writing the work based on the prompt of what's here, your final project becomes kind of like a journal entry to me how you're working on the project. So it'd be like, Bro Stevic, it's week 3. I've narrowed it down to these three options. I think I'm leaning towards this one. What do you think? It's week 5. I've started building the databases. Here's the ERD. Here's what it kind of looks like. Do you have any thoughts on it? So your life becomes a lot easier with the papers if you do the final project. It becomes a little more complicated because the final project is a complicated thing, but the papers become more of a conversation with me than this is what I learned this week on how to do joins. So, any questions so far? Am I going too fast?
I think you're good.
Okay, cool. Okay. And that's generally how the weeks are going to work. Next week's a little different. There is a requirement for next week that's not seen anywhere else. There's a reason for it. I'm gonna tell you what it is now. It's not as big a deal as some people worry about. So here, if you look at week 2, we have this thing called reverse engineering a website. Basically, what that is, there's this. It's not Percipio. It's not Presidio. There's a software they occasionally try to make us use to monitor the software, monitor you taking quizzes and tests. Begins with P. I can never remember it because we don't have to use it as long as you guys do this. Anyway, they have Proctorio. Proctorio, that's what it is. So they're in order to stay an accredited online class, they require us to have at least one assignment where we see your face on camera and you say, "Hi, this is Don," and go through a thing. It used to be quizzes 6 and quizzes 10. You had to use Proctorio through, and it was always a nightmare. So what they allowed us to change a couple of years ago was we do this reverse engineering website. So basically what this is you give me like a 2 to 3 minute video. You pick a website and you just tell me what you think the back end looks like. Because at this point in time, I don't think anyone is going to know how to reverse engineer a database and give me like the actual diagram of what the database looks like. So, and next week I'll give you an example of what that looks like on how you pull up a website and say, here's the website and here's what I think that back end looks like. It's just to get the juices flowing in your head about how databases are built, how data flows, how stuff like that works, and give me an idea of where you are in your knowledge of that. And it also starts giving you some ideas on possible final project ideas if you choose to go that route. Other than that, that is pretty much how the weeks work. You can see here in week 3, that's where the final option is for the final project. But yeah, so the weeks are pretty simple. They're the same every week. There's a quick quiz to ask you about the readings that you did. There's exercises asking you to write some code. There's a paper asking you to explain yourself about what you learned, and then there's the quiz. Every week on Tuesdays at 9:30 p.m. Eastern time, I will be here online. I might miss 1 week. It depends. I'm having knee surgery on January 23rd, but that shouldn't stop me from popping online that next Tuesday because I'll be 5 days out. So we'll see what happens. I'll let you guys know what's going on with that. If for some reason I can't be here that day. Um, but so there's that. Yeah. And then so when we hear the first part of the class is always going to be me explaining the code that was there that week, giving you examples, talking through how it works. And then the second part is either answering your questions or talking about how to design a database. So next week will be 30 minutes of code and then 15, 20 minutes about talking about how to reverse engineer a database. And then week after that, it'll be 30 minutes talking code and then designing a database. Sometimes those classes will go a little over because I get real into this. I've been doing database design for a very, very long time and I love it. It's actually a lot of fun for me at this point. I like the whole, when I used to teach this class in person a long time ago, the room I taught in was four walls of dry erase board. So I would start in one corner of the room and start designing the database, and I would just go around the room until I ran out of space and design a database. Um, so, uh, like I said, I enjoy it. It's kind of a geeky thing for me, but I do enjoy it. One word of warning, if you like to get ahead and want to kind of like do that reverse engineer website now, knock your socks off, go and do it. Try to keep it very simple though. Don't tackle something like, eBay or Amazon or Family Search, because those databases are ridiculously huge. And I say this is funny. One semester, probably a year and a half ago, I went through my usual spiel of don't use Family Search, and a guy who was in the class was actually a database administrator for Family Search and had access to the actual ERD, which he was not allowed to show me, even though I really wanted to see it. So, yeah. All right. Okay, so we got a little time left, so I'm gonna go ahead and start throwing some terms at you guys. If there's any questions, comments, concerns, anything I said about how the class works, what the requirements are, how it works, any questions on that?
Hi, brother.
Hi.
Good evening. I have a question, but it's regarding the activities. I don't know if we can go through or maybe later.
Talk about what?
About the assignment of this week.
Sure. What about it?
Maybe I can share my screen because
Sure.
I
Go ahead.
am
Yeah, let me give permission to do that.
okay.
Remember how to give permission to do that. Let's see. I wish they just let me. I wish I didn't have to give permission to let you share, but companion participates. Share. Where's the security? Where's security? Advanced sharing options. Okay, there you go. Share away, Melanie.
Um it seems that I cannot share because you are sharing.
Oh, okay. I'll stop sharing. Let's see. Stop sharing. Stop share is stop share there. All right.
Okay. Oh my. So I already download my SQL, but I am on the point that of for the Sakila's
Mhm.
schema, I run this and I do this and then I get a message like this.
Yeah, you got me. That's a weird one. I'm not sure why that is doing that. You're running on a Windows box, right?
Yes. And when I go into settings, here it was free BSD
Mm-mm.
and I changed it
Mhm.
to Windows, so I'm not sure if I should do that or just
Change
keep
to
it
Windows.
fixed.
Change that to Windows. Um, and test the connection. Okay. Hit close. So I think what's going to end up happening here is I think something was missed or went wrong during install. So you might have to reinstall. Um, what I would suggest is call the student help desk
Okay.
and see what they can give you. But I think there's something wrong with the only reason why I wouldn't recognize Windows as the OS is if something happened during the install process and something was misclicked or something. So I don't know. My first thing I would say is uninstall MySQL,
Mhm.
um, reboot your computer, install it again, and if you have the same error, I would reach out to the help desk
Okay.
and
Okay,
they
I
can
will
help you if
answer.
anything can be.
Can I interject real quick?
Sure.
Just Melanie, I think I had that error too.
Oh,
And one thing that I did was I copied the error to Chat GPT and it kind of walked me through some things to try. So that's another thing I did to troubleshoot.
good.
I did uninstall and reinstall like a whole bunch of times, and part of that can be an issue too. I know that the video, it said to just import like 3 files, and then in the directions on the PowerPoint, it showed to use the developer version, but there wasn't a developer version
Yeah.
of SQL. But if you do have to uninstall, definitely use the downloaded uninstall agent and not just the Windows uninstall, because I had issues with that too and had to delete folders. So
Yeah.
yeah, you
Oh,
can get past it.
oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dina, a great idea about using ChatGPT. I've actually, even though I use Copilot more than ChatGPT. I like the interface with Copilot better, but AI is great. If you put the error message into AI, it'll tell you what you need to do to fix it, or at least give you some.
That's
Yeah,
awesome. I really forgot about it.
yeah.
Thank you.
No, it's something it's all pretty new right now, right? And actually, I made an announcement specifically to AI because it's completely possible to take the prompt that you're given for the papers and to put that into ChatGPT, and it will spit out an essay that people have copied and pasted it in. Um, don't do that. We have they've given us software to track that, so it's not terribly accurate, but there are certain things that AI does that if you know what you're looking for, you can pick it out pretty well. But yeah, so Dean's giving you some good suggestions and head that out. But yeah, and that's a great note. Don't whenever you uninstall something, never use the Windows uninstall. Use the one that came with it, because Windows will just remove the registry stuff. It won't remove the folders. So um,
Thank you. Okay.
yeah, so yeah, so do that, and then if you can't get that done and help desk doesn't help you out, ping me during the week. I'll see what I can do to help you.
Sure. Thank you, brother. Thank you, Diana, too.
Mhm. Cool. All right. So let me go back to sharing here. Um, and pull up my notepad and then I'll put some stuff here. All right. And notepad. All right. So, um, some terms that we use here a lot. So SQL stands for Structured Query Language. So MySQL so we just call it SQL. So it's Structured Query Language. You'll also hear a term called T-SQL. So T-SQL stands for Transactional Structured Query Language. Okay. Um, so databases have been around for a really long time. They've been around since before computers because literally, a database is just, wow, that's a really bad spelling of language. Language. There we go. A spreadsheet is a database. Anything that contains data that you take and parse out and use is a database. So back in the time of the dinosaurs, ledger books and checkbook things and everything, those were all forms of a database. Excel is a form of a database. Any spreadsheet program on your computer is a form of a database. Um, uh, you can go into the argument that like CSVs are databases, but like even a Word document to a certain extent can be considered a database. There's a table in it, right? The difference between um, the database as a spreadsheet and what we talk about in MySQL is the T part, the transactional part. Okay. But also, you'll often hear me referred to this is an engine. Okay. So because MySQL, SQL Server for Microsoft SQL Server, Oracle, PostGen, all them, those are database engines. Because what that means is there is something constantly running in the background of your computer for the databases. There's always a portion of your computer that's running that in the background. Um, so so that's the first thing between like your Excel programs and Access and whatnot and your SQL server, your database servers, is that they're engine. They're not the Excel's in an engine. The rest are. The other is um, so to a certain extent, if you're using Excel, you can have relationships between different spreadsheets in one document. So you get like a bunch of different tabs in one spreadsheet. You can have them talk to each other by writing what they refer to as macros. It's not intuitive. It's not pleasant. It's not a great experience, but you can do it. Um, but when you look at a database in MySQL, you have what we refer to as tables. And the tables are what holds the data in it. Um, the tables contain data on a specific topic. Meaning, like you might have an employee table, or you might have a customer table, or you might have an order table. Now you're going to notice something here, and in some of the code I'll give you later on the semester, I haven't fixed this yet. A standard practice of databases is that table names are not plural. It's not the employees table, it's the employee table. Um, it's not the customers table, it's the customer table. Now, these tables, and we're going to talk about this a lot, these tables should only contain information about what that topic is. So if you have an employee table, it should only have information that directly pertains to the employee. Name, address, birth date, things along those lines. Um, Anything that would not specifically relate to them or relate to more people, like you wouldn't say if you're doing a database for Walmart and you have an employee table, you wouldn't put where the employee works in the employee table because that can change. That's not directly connected to that one employee because that can change a lot over time. Um, and then customer table. Now, the process of making sure that the data uh, is appropriate to that table is called normalization. And that's a topic, there's a word you're going to hear me use a lot, the normalization of data. What that means is we're looking at a table and making sure that everything in that table should be there. I know, like if you had a class, if you had a table for if you had a database for a school, and you had a student table, you wouldn't have the students' classes in the student table. You have a different table for that information because that class's information, that student can change a lot during the course of that student's career in high school or any school, and also um, uh, other students would have that class, so that wouldn't pertain. You have a separate table. So the normalization data requires that the data in the table be only to that particular topic. Okay. There's a term you hear me use called ERD. That stands for Entity Relationship Design or diagram. So an ERD is the relationship diagram that shows the tables in the database. So let me show you what an ERD looks like. If I'm going too fast or I'm using words, or please stop me. Because I want to make sure that you guys know what I'm talking about here. Okay, so um, let me open up an ERD. That is a really unimpressive ERD. Let me try a different one. You save over. There we go. Okay, there. So this is one. Oh, this is actually the Sakilla. This looks a little different. My database looks different than yours because I've added a bunch of stuff to it to show some stuff. But this is essentially what an ERD does. Is like a staff table. So it's how the tables that are in there and how they relate to each other. Got these arrows here and all these little drawings here. So that's what an ERD is. We'll be talking about those a lot, and we'll be drawing a lot of them. So, um, okay. Ba, 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 ba. In transactional SQL language, there's two. Okay, so there are different types of commands that are used in SQL, Transact SQL, and the two important ones there's DDL and DML. Okay, DDL stands for Data Definition Language, and DML stands for Data Manipulation Language. There are others, and they're going to bring them up in the book, but no one cares about those. Um, they're not used. I try to keep this class and the conversations we have, particularly on these calls, as real world as possible. And there's a lot of things that they talk about in this class that we just don't do in practice. They do in here just because they want you to understand the concept and how something works. But generally speaking, when you go out to the real world to real database stuff, it's not something that is actually done. So I will be pretty direct about that stuff. Um, okay, so data definition language. This is what defines the structure of the databases. So this is your statements like create, modify, and drop. So create creates an object, modify changes the object, and drop gets rid of the object. The great thing about Transact SQL as a programming language, it's English. It makes sense. It's like create table. Oh look, you want to create a table? There you go. Create table TBL1. You run that, you've created a table. It doesn't have anything in it, but it exists, right? But it's pretty straightforward. Um, there's no like weird with C sharp or JavaScript weird commands that don't exist anywhere else on the planet. It's create, modify, and drop. Create the object, modify, drop the object. Data manipulation language is exactly what it sounds. It's what changes the data inside the object you've created. So this creates the table, this modifies the table and drops the table. This is how to deal with what's in the table. Select takes the data out. Insert puts the data in. Update changes the data, and delete gets rid of the data. And then there's a command called truncate, which we will talk about later. I'm just put it here right now. It's also a form of deletion, but we're going to talk about that later. So I can select data, I can insert data, I can update data, and I can delete data. Select information from table. Boom, there it is. Insert to information into table. Again, very simple, very straightforward. It does get complicated. Don't let me fool you on that one. It will get complicated. Queries can get very, very complicated. You try to keep them simple as possible, but they can get out of hand. But sorry, I'm just getting over this cough, and I need to keep drinking or I cough like a crazy person. Um, those are the basic commands you're going to use for the run of this course. There's other ones in there, other different clauses in there, but those are the basics. All right. I think any other terms that I use a lot, indexes, joins, that's also what we're going to talk about later. But yeah, so this is a good primer onto what to expect on how things are going to work, how the data flows. You might feel a little uneasy if you're not used to code the first couple weeks, but trust me, by week 4 or 5, it gets easier. Because the way I run this, the way I teach the code in this, every week build on what we did the week before. So next week we're going to start with the simple the select statements, all the different ways to do a select statement, how it works out, how to do the select statement's all about how do I get the data out of the tables to show to someone so they understand what it is. Because if I have like the employee table here and the customer and the order table here, and I want to pull up a result that shows me what customer ordered what from what employee, it's in 3 different tables. I got to get that information out and to show it to somebody so they understand what it looks like. When you go to Amazon and you run a query, you ask like where are all the Pokemon toys? That's in several different tables. So your request is covering like 6 or 7 or 8 different tables, but it all comes back up in one simple thing. You look, oh look, there's where they are, and here's the ones that are there, and here's the ones that are there. Um, and if you look at it behind the scenes where it was really coming from, you're like that doesn't make any sense. So um yeah, so next week we're gonna talk select queries and how to make those select queries make sense. Um and go on from there. So that pretty much ends my spiel for today. Anyone got any questions?
I did. I wanted to know at the end of this class or as part of this class, are we going to be working with how to access database information from a website, or is this focused on just developing databases?
So this is just focused on developing databases. Generally speaking, websites use databases. They don't contain data. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so we can go over that towards the end. I can explain to you how that works. It's not part of the course, but I'll answer any question you throw at me.
Okay.
So yeah, we can absolutely talk about how that works. It'll be more of like a verbal kind of thing and how to make the connections and stuff. But it's something we can absolutely talk about. Just at one point on a Wednesday night, on Tuesday night, remind me.
So does this class build on top of the what was it CTI or CIT, whatever it is, 111, or is it
Okay.
mostly a review of
So it's about 60% of review. If you go just by the coursework, it's
yeah.
about 60% review, 40% new stuff. But the
Okay.
way I teach it on Tuesdays, it's probably 40% review, 60% new stuff.
Cool.
Because I introduce stuff that I will talk to you on stuff on Tuesday nights that's not in the book.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'll show you and eh, if you get me chatting, I'll talk about stuff that I've never talked about before. Like I've never talked about how to build and restore indexes. No one's ever asked. It's
Hmm.
as far as I know, it's not part of any class that they offer here. But really important part of databases. But because of how I teach the class, I keep it open. So like if you have any questions about specific things about databases, I can answer them.
Just how to connect them. I'm personally interested in how they connect with other software.
Oh, sure. We can absolutely run that down. I can probably
Cool.
even demo some stuff out if I get the right stuff going somewhere, I can demo it out how it works.
Love it. Thanks.
No problem. Any other questions? All right. Well, then we're going to call it a night. I will be back next week, 9:30. We're going to talk about lesson two. We're going to talk about select queries and all the fun ways for select queries to work. We're going to talk about the reverse engineering database and any other questions that you might have. All right. You guys have a great week. Stay warm wherever you are. And I'll talk to you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you. Bye.
Good night, everybody.